Hello, friends. Welcome back to Transcendent Astrology and Tarot. My name is Michelle Fondon. I'm an author, speaker, tarot reader, and astrologer. And today I'm coming to you with the Mercury Retrograde happening from August 4th through August 27th of 2024. So if you're interested, please do stay tuned. If you are new to my channel, welcome. Thank you for subscribing below. Click on the bell, scroll up to all for all notifications. And thank you for giving the video a thumbs up. I do tarot and astrology readings, and you can book that at my website, michellefondonauthor.com. Mercury Retrograde. What does that mean and how often does it happen? We have this Mercury retrograde happening from August 4th through August 27th. Mercury goes retrograde about 3 to 4 times a year, and it remains retrograde for about 3 weeks each time. So if we were to calculate that, approximately 1/5 of the year, we have Mercury retrograde. You have to remember, when a planet stations retrograde, it also slows down, and it slows down its movement before it goes retrograde. And then afterward, there's also a period of adaptation as it is moving forward again. So it tends to be in what they call shadow period. And so when we extend that a week or two on either side, we're really talking about more than 1/5 of the year where we experience Mercury in retrograde. Let's take a look at actually what is happening. And I'd like to talk to you a little bit about retrogrades and Mercury in particular. As you can see by the chart, Mercury begins its retrograde period on August 4th of 2024 at 9:57 p.m. Pacific time. And it is in Virgo at this time. Virgo is one of Mercury's home signs, the other home sign being Gemini. There's a very particular conjunction happening here as we start Mercury retrograde on August 4th, and that is Venus is conjunct Mercury at 0 degrees 7 minutes of Virgo. For the first half of Mercury retrograde, Venus will be conjunct Mercury. Venus represents beauty, money, fun, and desires. It is in Virgo, Mercury's home sign. So when we see these two planets conjunct in Virgo, we think about the details of money. We think about the details of a beauty routine, for example. We think about the details of having fun or planning fun events. But Virgo is really about the fine details, and that is the more micromanagey side of Mercury. I look at this as a very pleasant and easy aspect. Venus is okay in Virgo. It's not in detriment in Virgo. And Mercury, of course, feels very much at home in Virgo. Before we talk about the other aspects that Mercury is experiencing during this Mercury retrograde, I'd like you to dig a little deeper into what happens during a Mercury retrograde. Because a lot of times when somebody talks about a technological snafu, a plane canceling its schedule, or difficulties getting somewhere, or difficulties in communication, somebody might ask, hey, is it Mercury retrograde time? And we do tend to attribute these events to a Mercury retrograde, but I'd like us to dig just a little bit deeper, as I like to do with Transcendent Astrology and Tarot. Let's dig a little bit deeper and just take a look at what Mercury represents and what it looks like when Mercury is retrograde, and just taking on a deeper level. Mercury is known as the messenger of the gods, and it is a planet of communication and technology and short distance travel. It is equated somewhat to the 3rd house. It's not a steadfast correlation, but if we really look at it, there are many similarities in the 3rd house, as well as Gemini, Mercury's main sign, if you will, with Virgo being its secondary sign. Mercury bridges the gaps of consciousness. So let's just look at it as that. Mercury connects 2 points, and that is Mercury's job. So whether it be the neurotransmitters in your brain, or whether it's about getting from point A to point B, or whether it's streaming one word to the next word in order to have a good conversation. So Mercury certainly is about the connection between consciousness, the streams of consciousness, and of course, points of communication. Let's just take, for example, communication. In communication, we have 3 parts. We have thoughts, then we have speaking through words, typically, and then we have listening or receiving. So there are those 3 parts to communication. Most typically, people that are communicating are more absorbed with the speaking part or the thinking part. They might be thinking about what they are about to say. Most people have a greater difficulty in the listening part. Listening without thinking. Because sometimes you could say in communication, hey, I am listening, but instead of actively listening, you could be thinking about the next thing you are about to say, or you're thinking about how you are going to respond to the person who is speaking. So as we pull apart those 3 parts of communication, as an example, we think about the thinking part, the speaking part, and the listening part. Now, if you're in a written communication, it might be the reading, which is the receiving, and then there might be composing an email, which would be the speaking or writing part. And then, of course, in between that, there is the thinking of it. We tend to blame Mercury when communication goes awry. When Mercury is in retrograde, it's not that communication is going awry. It's that the focus is different. Mercury is a fast-moving planet and a forward-moving planet, which the streams of consciousness and communication are forward-moving. What does this translate to? This translates to thoughts quickly being bridged over into speech, but perhaps not really concerned with how those things are received. And when Mercury slows down and then it moves into a retrograde position, it is taking that outward communication and bringing it closer, bringing it in. And in fact, I did a perspective on retrogrades in my last video on the new moon that just happened on August 4th. And I'll go ahead and post that here, that new moon in Leo. So you can check that out. And I would say if you're not interested in listening to the whole video on the new moon in Leo, because it passed already, go ahead and just scroll to the chapter in the timestamps on my opinion about retrogrades, because we have a lot of planets in retrograde now. So when Mercury is retrograde, the focus is a little bit different. The focus is going to be on your internal thoughts as well as hearing or listening actively. And that's often the part that is the weakest link, is the weakest point. So if you're interested in knowing how to navigate Mercury retrogrades, the best way to navigate Mercury retrogrades is to shift the focus. So instead of being concerned and worried about conversations getting all muddled and things getting misunderstood and delays and things not being well communicated, place your focus more on the listening aspect and the receiving aspect. Place your focus on the thinking before you speak aspect, which we don't often do either. And so with that perspective, we can then dive deeply into what is really going on during this specific Mercury retrograde in August of 2024. The major aspect as we begin this Mercury retrograde, of course, is the conjunction with Venus. But on top of that, we have an inconjunct or quincunx with Pluto. Now, Pluto is at 0 degrees Aquarius. Pluto is retrograde as well. So we have our Mercury retrograde and we have Pluto retrograde. We have Venus conjunct Mercury at 0 degrees of Virgo, Quinconx Pluto at 0 degrees Aquarius retrograde. When we take Mercury and Venus together and we have them conjunct one another in Virgo, We have situations concerning money, beauty, good luck, even with your desires and having fun. It's almost like the lighter aspects, even though Virgo is not necessarily a light sign, it's an earth sign. It's not necessarily a lighter sign. It's usually heavy on the details. But this is really about going over, like I said, it could be like fine-tuning your beauty routine or fine-tuning your finances. For example, if you have a credit card that you really want to pay down, it's about outlining a plan of how much you're going to put down toward paying that debt off. But when we get Pluto into it, it can bring up some deep-seated insecurities, deep-seated personal things that want to be transformed. And this could be the deepest, darkest shadows of who you are wanting to come out, because Quinconxes do provide a little bit of this tug-of-war, push-pull, this discomfort and tension that does need to be resolved. It's a quincunx is definitely a softer bit of tension than a direct opposition, but there's still this sense of unease still being worked out. And so when I mentioned that sometimes when we have these communication snafus, it could have more to do with our internal thinking with these two planets retrograde, Mercury and Pluto. It could be more about the internal thinking and the not listening. You might want to dig in your heels with Pluto retrograde here. You might want to dig in your heels and be committed to your old ways of doing things with Aquarius, because Aquarius is really about, it is about the breakthrough, right? It's about the breakthrough of the old ways, but with Pluto retrograde, you might want to not break through, not transform. Secondarily, what I want to say with this Pluto retrograde quincunx Mercury, which is really going on for a big part of this Mercury retrograde, is that it's really pulling you inside of yourself and against society, I believe, because the dialogue, talking about communication, the dialogue surrounding society and societal issues can be very tense. And when we take the tenseness, the tension of Aquarius, Pluto and Aquarius retrograde, and we take that tenseness and we bring it to Virgo, really talking about the fine details, but with Mercury retrograde, and this is really more personal, it becomes more personal here. I would say it's even better to do a greater amount of listening, not casting judgments necessarily, and a greater amount of you assessing your thought processes and going into the details of what you're thinking about society, what you're thinking about what's going on, and not necessarily speaking it at this time. Not speaking it, just sorting it out within yourself. And I think that would be a really great way to move through this Mercury retrograde. There are some more aspects as we move through this Mercury retrograde, which are relatively interesting. As I mentioned, we have quite a few planets that are retrograde at this moment. Let's put the chart back up and take a look real quick. If we go around the zodiac wheel, we're going to start with that circle where we see Mercury and Venus conjunct in Virgo. Now, we need to keep in mind that Mercury will be retrograding back into Leo during this Mercury retrograde. It's going to be going to 21 degrees, 29 minutes of Leo. As we start, we have, as I mentioned, Pluto retrograded 0 degrees Aquarius. We have Saturn retrograde at 18 degrees of Pisces, Neptune retrograde at 29 degrees Pisces. The north and south nodes are always retrograde. Then we have Chiron retrograde at 23 degrees Aries. We have Uranus direct in Taurus at 26 degrees. We have this Mars-Jupiter conjunction, which has been happening. And I believe that the Mars-Jupiter conjunction will go exact on August 15th. And I did talk about that in my new moon video that happened for August 4th as well. We've got the sun and the moon in Leo as we start this Mercury retrograde. So as we move forward and we see the different aspects, on August 9th, we have Mercury and Neptune that are Quinconx as well. So not only will Mercury be inconjunct or Quinconx to Pluto retrograde, Mercury will also be inconjunct Quinconx to Neptune retrograde in Pisces. This can blow your imagination and confusion out of proportions. So what you were thinking about your opinions about society, what's going on in your outer world, while you're trying to get your inner world sorted out, Neptune brings a whole other flavor to that. Now, what I'm afraid of for you is that it could bring about exaggerations because Neptune is without boundaries. It being in Pisces, it's really without boundaries. It being retrograde, it's closer to Earth. It can bring about confusion about like, I don't know what I believe anymore. And it's also about belief systems. I don't know what I believe anymore. And it can get you into a panic about not knowing what you believe anymore about society, Pluto in Aquarius. And I would say Neptune is also imagination and expansion of ideas. How about this? How about during Mercury retrograde, you just decide, I don't really care what I believe in right now. I'm toying around with ideas. I'm playing around with ideas, and I'm not afraid to change my old ideas into new ones, Pluto in Aquarius. I'm not afraid, but I'm just toying around with ideas now. I'm listening to the people around me, or maybe not listening to the people around me. I'm listening to different opinions, but not necessarily adopting them as my own. With Neptune, not only is the sky the limit, but the sea is the limit, the ocean's the limit, the depths of the ocean is the limit, or are the limit, is the limit. And so maybe you just don't need to make a decision about how you feel about society in general, about your belief systems. Maybe that's just breaking down and expanding and growing, and maybe it's not even what you can think about right now. There are a lot more tension points between the outer planets than have happened in a while. We have many squares going on, especially the weekend of August 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th. And August 19th, we have a full moon in Aquarius. And there's some tension. There is tension. There's tension between these 3 points, between Mercury inconjunct Pluto, inconjunct Neptune. There are these tension points that are going to be there. And there are tension points between the other planets as there are squares between the other planets, which I'll just put it up. We're not going to talk about it here, but I'll just put it up so you can see there is some tension. But I think the most important points we need to focus on here are Mercury retrograde, inconjunct Pluto, and inconjunct Neptune. And then very soon after, it's also going to be squaring Uranus. So talk about tension, liberation, ideas being transformed and changed. And what I want to say to you is you do not need to commit to an idea, to a changed belief system, to anything during this time. Just be open to it. Be open to changing ideas, changing your mind, listening, and not really judging, just being open to it. It's going to help you release that tension because you don't have to make a decision about it, right? Now, as far as what's going on in Virgo and then maybe what's going on in Leo after that, maybe you do need to make some decisions about Venusian stuff. And I say Venusian stuff because the flavor of this Mercury retrograde starts with Venus conjunct Mercury and Virgo. So the flavor of what we're looking at, the ingredients that we're putting into this Mercury retrograde, the ingredients that are there are Mercury conjunct Venus and Virgo. Those are the ingredients we start with. And of course, inconjunct Pluto. So I believe the transformations that do need to take place via the Venusian state of affairs, whether it be your money, desires, fun, or beauty, take care of those. Go into the fine details, Virgo, of what you want to change there. But as far as the bigger, more broad ideas about society in general, Pluto in Aquarius retrograde, and keep it open. Keep it open and explore it. Try not to speak about it too much, though. I really feel like this Mercury retrograde, it's better just to remain silent and just listen. Let other people spout off their ideas if they want to, but just the smart ones, right? The ones who are transformed and transcended are just going to remain a little quiet during this next 3 weeks and just kind of keep your ideas to yourself because you're still ruminating. You're still forming your ideas. Now, the last thing that I want to say about this Mercury retrograde, because let's look at the stopping point. The stopping point is August 27th of 2024 at 6:58 p.m. Pacific time. And I just have the aspects to Mercury up on the screen, as you can see. We have Mercury sextile Jupiter, Mars, the moon, all in Gemini. And we have, and Mercury, of course, is in Leo at this point. And we have Mercury still square to Uranus in Taurus. And we have a trine between Mercury and Chiron. Now, if you have not yet viewed my video on Mercury conjunct Chiron 3 times, I believe it was in March and April of this year, I'll post that video right here. The reason why that is so incredibly important here is because we have Chiron trine to Mercury. Now, this is happening for the second half of this Mercury retrograde. Chiron is in Aries and it's referred to as the wounded healer. Chiron is also retrograde at this time, along with Mercury retrograde at this time. Trines are aspects of ease. It's easy breezy. And Mercury has been working out some issues that have happened with Chiron, the wounded healer. And Mercury pinpointed those issues back in March and April of this year, and maybe earlier. I can't remember the exact dates. Please bear with me. Watch the video. And those issues that were brought to the surface during that time where Mercury came conjunct Chiron 3 times in Aries were brought to the surface to be worked out. And the trine is going to help Mercury finish those issues, finish working them out. Whatever issues came up for you around that time where Mercury was conjunct Chiron, the trine is super helpful in getting those sorted out, getting those worked out. And so I believe that this is going to be very helpful to just get rid of those problems, those issues that have been plaguing you since they came to the surface back in the spring of this year. So that's all I wanted to say about this Mercury retrograde. Let's go ahead and pick some tarot cards regarding the Mercury retrograde. So dear angels and guides, can you please help the viewers who are viewing this video understand what they do need to know about Mercury retrograde this month in August? We've got Ace of Wands, a passionate start. I love it. A new passion for love and life. So Venus, of course, also represents love. I don't know why I didn't say that. Why didn't I say that? Venus also represents love. Okay, I'll say it again. It says going forward, igniting desire. Well, I did say Venus does represent a sense of desire, because Venus can be like what we want, right? Venus can be like, oh, I'm going shopping and I want this pair of jeans, or I want this piece of jewelry. I want these beautiful items to surround me. Or I want the nice car and I want the nice haircut. So there is this definite sense of a fresh start to help you understand your personal desires. And that is Mercury conjunct Venus. And maybe it's like Mercury retrograde is helping Venus uncover the desires that Venus hasn't spoken about yet. And maybe it's that. And maybe it's about providing you with that detailed action to be able to get those desires fulfilled. So let's see here. What else? We've got two. I mean, this one tentatively wanted to come out, so we're going to take it. It's very odd because we have the Knight of Wands, we have the Ten of Swords. We have some fiery energy. Now, we do know for certain that Mercury retrograde is going back into Leo, a fire sign. So we do know this. We do know that there is fiery energy in the second part of the Mercury retrograde as it is retrograding into Leo. So we do know that, but we also do know that Mercury trine Chiron for the second part, Chiron is retrograde in Aries, another fire sign. So we do know that there is this get up and go energy as well. Knight of Wands being swept off your feet. It could be romance, right? It could be with Venus there that you are meeting someone, maybe a Virgo, maybe an earth sign, but you are meeting someone if you're looking for someone, or you are reigniting the love and romance in your relationship during this time. Now, the second thing that's coming to me with the Knight of Wands energy is taking care of business in a detailed manner. Why do I say it? This is not even a Virgo card, but Knight of Wands can indicate taking care of an emergency situation. An emergency situation could just be like putting out a fire that you hadn't previously put out. Like it was starting to burn and you kind of ignored it. And now it's like a great big bonfire and you're like, oh shoot, I better do something about this. So I feel like it's either putting out a fire that started in Leo before Mercury got to Virgo, and you need to actually put out that fire. So maybe it is an emergency situation you need to take care of at this point. And what could that be? It could be something as simple as like a bill unpaid that you forgot about, right? You forgot to go to the DMV and renew your vehicle registration. Could be that. It could be that like a doctor's appointment that you forgot to make while Mercury was still in Leo, and that you put it off. And now that Mercury is in Virgo, you're like, oh shoot, I do need to do that thing that I meant to do. So we've got the 10 of Swords, which says the final chapter. It also says like, this is usually when you hit a bottom of something and you're like, I need to transform this. I need to end this. I need it to be done and out of my life forever. We have, so this is Gemini and it's a Sun in Gemini card, but look, we have got that Mars and Jupiter conjunction happening during the Mercury retrograde. It's not aspecting Mercury in the beginning part of this, but when we see Mars and Jupiter in Gemini, it could be about taking massive action to do something, to move something forward. So if there is certainly something that you've been wanting to move forward because it's dead, done, and over with, whether it's a beat up car that you've been meaning to have like a charity pick up and like donate it and have them ship it off, and you're like, I need a new car. I've been needing a new car for 12 years. I just need to stop driving this old clunker. It could be that, right? Or it could be something more serious, like I've been meaning to get over this addiction, because 10 of Swords can sometimes indicate addictions. I've been meaning to get over this addiction, and I now know it's actually time to take massive action to do that. So it could be something like that. The other side of the 10 of Swords when it comes to this Mercury retrograde could be that in conjunct with Pluto. And the reason I say that is because Pluto is going to dig up stuff that you don't need anymore. It's going to like show you the dust bunnies under your bed. And those could come in the way of, with Aquarius there, it could come in the way of like your belief systems. Like your belief system, something you shoved under the rug that you've just been saying you believed in, but you don't really believe it anymore. And the Ten of Swords could be just like, no, put a nail in the coffin. You really don't believe that anymore. Why are you even talking about that? So I feel like it could come in a few different ways, but it's something to explore. And I believe it is definitely worth exploring. What's dead, done, and over with that you don't need to carry forward with you anymore? It's just like, why are you even carrying it forward, right? Like that old beat up piece of junk car that's been sitting in your driveway and you're like, I need to call the Salvation Army to come and pick it up. I want to donate it to them. They can sell it for parts. I just need to get a new car. Why haven't I done it yet? So something like that. Let's see, what else do the viewers need to know about this Mercury retrograde in Virgo and Leo? We've got the Four of Coins, material attachment. That is so interesting. So yeah, I would say sort out your finances. And this is it's either Capricorn or Virgo, I believe. It's an earth sign card. So it's like Four of Pentacles, right? I'm just like, it is Four of Pentacles, even though this is a Four of Coins. This could be about hoarding, for example, right? Or it could be about just spending all of your money. So I really believe that the Virgo part in this, with especially conjunct Venus at the beginning of Mercury retrograde, is like, decide what you're going to do about your finances, about your money, about your income, about your savings. Like, make a decision about what you are going to do, but be moderate in it. If you've been saving all your money for a rainy day and you haven't had any fun, Venus, it may be time to take some steps to have some fun with that money. And if you've been spending all the money that you don't have and you see your credit cards going up in debt, then that means you need to create a plan in Virgo. While they're still conjunct in Virgo, you need to create a plan to pay down that debt. So that's a Four of Coins. Let's get one more card for this Mercury retrograde. Nine of Coins. All right. I like the coins cards. It says rewards for your hard labor. Rewards, and that is a Virgo card. That is a Virgo and Venus card here. Okay, so it says rewards for your labor. Nine of Coins to me is always about being successful because you've taken successful actions. Okay, nines are almost to the culmination point. If you know tarot, you know the Ten of Coins is like the amazing card of having everything you desire. So the Nine of Coins is like almost there to having everything that you desire. And this is very Virgo because it's like one good action is going to stack upon the next good action and the next good action and the next good action until you have all these good actions lined up and you find yourself prosperous and abundant in more ways than one. And I really feel like that is the bigger message here is while you are having these positive energies in Virgo, especially during the first half of this Mercury retrograde, make sure that you are getting your ducks in a row. And maybe that's also the reason why we need to be silent and we need just to listen and process our thoughts and think. It's because the busy work that we're going to be doing during this Mercury retrograde, the busy work is getting our lives in order. Like the parts of our lives that we don't have in order, getting it in order, going through the fine details of it. And again, that's going to be related to Venus, the Venus themes. So if you have been ignoring your love relationship and you know that it is high time that you start paying attention to your love relationship, that means creating a detailed plan so that you and your partner go on dates weekly, or you sit down for coffee every single morning or 5 mornings a week. So it's those fine detail things. Nine of Coins is the stacking up of the positive actions and momentum, stacking them up so that you reap the rewards. You are rewarded for those behaviors and those actions. So I hope this was helpful in giving you a wonderful, helpful perspective on Mercury retrograde in August of 2024. I want to thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for subscribing to my channel below. Click on the bell, scroll up to all for all notifications. And thank you for giving the video a thumbs up. Thank you for sharing this video with others who appreciate astrology. And thank you so much for your support of my YouTube channel. You can buy one of my 11 published books. You can book a reading with me, and I will see you in the next video.